Well, hello, it's Jim, and I want to welcome you to my very first show, My Cryptic Thoughts About Our Hairy Friends, aka Bigfoot. For decades, this has been a passion of mine. I have two. Writing, am I here to talk about my books? We're here to talk about Harry. I'll explain why I refer to him as Harry here very shortly. It dates back to, I was born in 69. In 67, the Patterson Gibbon video came out. I was a kid, dad, and I'm like, oh, that's not real. And then in the 70s, Boggy Creek came out. That scared the kids. I was like, I think 8, 9. That scared me to death. I was like, there's a monster in the woods. But what really turned the direction on those thoughts was in the mid 80s. I was working in a movie theater. And if you haven't had the opportunity, I suggest that anyone out there to watch it. It's really good. But John Lithgow starred in it, and it was called Harry and the Hendersons. Now, when I watched that, I said to myself, wait a minute. I had this idea completely wrong. This is something that's intelligent. It shows feelings. I said, what? But the biggest part of this entire movie, y'all, was at the end of it. When Harry's standing there and they're saying goodbye to him and before he leaves to go back in the woods. Now, there's woods in the background. You see nothing else. And he said, okay. I said, well, I don't remember seeing okay, but they do communicate, and I'll be it for a future show that we discuss this. And there's so much gravy that I've stoked up over the decades that I'm going to share with all of you. But it was the fact that when he turned around to walk off, and like I said, I'm watching it, and then poof, two male Harrys pop up, a female Harry pops up, and then a baby Harry pops up and walks up with him. I said, what? I was sitting there watching it the entire time, and I didn't even see him. Then it started making me think. That was really what turned the volume up and shine the light so bright on the way I looked at this. I was like, oh, this is something I really want to learn more about. So I did. What this show is going to be is every week I'll recap. Right now, I'm a big fan of Expedition Bigfoot. I'll get more into that here very shortly. Has Bryce, Maria, and Russell. Really good. If you have an opportunity to watch it, you catch on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock on History Channel. It's not like they're going to hear me pull them out, but, they do a really good job. Because to me, it's about science. It's a proof. That's what you got to have to present to everybody out there that there is a biological being out here that's alive, and this is our proof that we have. Now, you can have your wishful thinking. Like when people go out there for a day or two, it's like scratching a lottery ticket. Oh, this is a winner. I'm wishful. That's the same thing. My opinion. Like I said, I'm not right. I'm here to share my gravy with all of you. Soak it in. And hopefully you can put some more gravy towards me. I'm all about learning something new every day. In addition, each week, what I do is I'm going to break down each state. Starting from the East Coast, going to the West Coast, Alaska, and all countries as well. Now, this is something to consider, y'all. In 7 continents, there's some form of a tall, upright, hairy man, a protector of the woods, or some story that's out there. That in itself, you got to sit there and say, whoa, man, what? Short stories I'll share. I've learned documentaries, personal experiences from living in Washington for a couple of years. I have one when I was young from Cheyenne National Forest in Wyoming with my dad. And I'll share that on down the line as well. It's just, I'm now being in my 50s, been doing this as long as I have. It's like, wow, I just can't believe that occurred and that happened. I'm just like, blew me out of the water. Now, I have friends, and I love them to death. Naysayers, and it's no problem. I love talking to them, sitting down and talking with them, and trying to open their minds. I believe people, a large majority of people, and it's nothing disrespectful, but believe in the paradigm. Horse blind. All they see is what's in front of them. They don't want to think about anything that's outside of that. And if it is, it's, no, Jim, come on, man, no. Myself, no. I don't wear horse blinds. I'm looking far to the right. I'm looking far to the left. I want to see that. That's when you get this. That's when you get that aha moment. That's science, right? It's not just what you see in front of you, but to get you to figure out what it is, you have to go beyond that. Out here to the far right, out here to the far left. That's what makes a difference in it. And you know, and I love them. And then they're like, okay, Jim, well, what Jim? Let me ask you. I mean, because they're intelligent guys. They're like, well, where are the bodies? How come you see any bones? And you know, the funniest thing about this, I said, I've believed this for years. I was like, well, I mean, I believe they're intelligent. I believe they bury her. They're dead. I'll be doggone, y'all. And if you don't know who she is, Google Jane Goodall, deep primatologist in my eyes. That when I heard her say to the same meaning that this is something that's intelligent, that wants to keep itself hidden, bury our dead so they're not found. And I said to myself, I was like, that touched my heart, y'all. Because like I said, this is just decades. I don't know everything, but it's just gravy. I soak it all up. And I even come down and try to break my own thoughts down. I'll try to debunk what I think personally myself. I mean, that's the proper way to do it, I feel. Excuse me. And then they're like, okay, Jim. All right. Okay, they bury. Well, so what are they, Jim? Okay. I love you, Mom. I love you. A lot of people and some people have heard stories, aliens. Not a big fan. Not saying that I'm not. Not saying they're not. this is something that's been around for hundreds of years, y'all. And the alien things, it's kind of hard for me to flow that way. I'm like, but you know what? If that's your passion, I support you. But I myself, I'm going to have to try to debug that in many ways as I can. Now, then I also tell them, okay, but there is something 200,000 years ago. It was a primate that existed, the giant Pithecus. Now, this primate, y'all, was over 10 feet tall. We're talking 6 to 7 feet wide. Okay. Maybe it's an off of evolution, and maybe it survived. Okay. But here's one that really, it turned my mind. I said, ooh, and dude's in my head, okay? And we're like, wait a minute, this is pretty good. Now, before I discuss this one, I want to tell you what a tapetum lucidum. The tapetum lucidum, dude, what's up? Well, what that is, it's a reflective lens on an eye. Like your cat or dog, okay? You know, if they're out at night, you shine a light on them, it comes back gold, green. I had a dog that shined back blue, it's really cool. Or red. Well, that's the same thing. Bears, wolves, deer, and hairy have the tapetum lucidum, reflective lens. Now, here's where I'm going with this. You're like, well, where's that come from, Tim? Well, I was looking at this, y'all. About a couple years ago, I came across something. The Homo man. Evolution. I'm not trying to mock under religion. Please don't miss. This is just my gravy I'm sharing with you, okay? But all of those on that Homo man table, there was one, y'all. And check this out. It was a Neanderthal. The Neanderthal had the tapetum lucidum. And I said, oh boy, I said, wait a minute. They were extremely aggressive at times. They were very strong. And there are some stories that were completely covered in hair. And I said to myself, I was like, boy. And I told him, I was like, well, I mean, I have a theory thinking maybe long lost over time. And then here's the biggest thing. That's why I always go back to, I'm like, ooh. A lot of the DNA samples, that's environmental DNA. Now they have a technology that has advanced so much. It's so cool, and it's getting closer. But when they do these environmental DNA tests, you know, sometimes they come on primate, but a large majority of them detect human DNA in them. And people a lot of time brush that off as contaminated. This is where I kind of say, wait a minute now. Ever since I thought about this Neanderthal theory, they have the human DNA in their genes, y'all. So it's just, like I said, it's just gravy, food for thought. And maybe if I could get you to say, huh, that's all I'm trying to do. Lower that wall down and realize, oh, whoa, I see what he's talking about. That's all this is about. This is exciting me. I am so excited every week to bring you a show that has nothing to do with Harry. Stories, everything that I've heard. I mean, the tree structures, I tell them, you know, they're intelligent. I mean, the tree structures you see out there, that's the biggest thing they see. That's the most miraculous ones I've seen. I mean, you need to understand this is something that's intelligent, and that in itself is symbolic, y'all. There's a meaning behind it. I mean, there's a purpose. I mean, it's to myself, it's so exciting. And listen, and here's another thing I want to make sure we understand while I'm talking. It's different from hearing what I say to visualizing what I say. That is a very big part of this, y'all. Okay? From the widths I discussed, from the heights. Now, if you're ever in your home and you're sitting there and you hear what I'm talking about, here's something you could do. Most standard homes, from the floor to the ceiling, is an 8-foot ceiling. Just take that in consideration. 8-foot ceiling, add a foot to that. That's an average. Now let's talk about the width. We're talking something that's 5 foot, we'll say 5 foot in average in width. Do the measure. That's like that window right there. I believe that's like 5 foot and a foot more above that ceiling. That's important when we discuss all this stuff. It's the visualization, not just listening to what I'm saying, but that's when you can relate. If you can step back and say, holy mackerel. It's all the time. Everything I listen, everything I watch, that's how I analyze it. That's how I break it down. From the footprints, I mean, some of the largest footprints I've been seeing people have found are, 23.5 inches? I was like, geez almighty, you got to be kidding me. So, I mean, it's amazing. Now, let's go ahead and get this started in directions. Like I said, each show is going to be a little different. State Down Brace, we'll start that next week. But right now, like Expedition Bigfoot, y'all. There's so many shows out there and whatnot. But I love Expedition Bigfoot. This is their 6th season. In time, in shows, future shows, I'll break down past shows and past seasons they've had. Because they're really, like I said, Bryce, Moran, Russell, thumbs up. Love what they're doing. Keep progressing. You're doing an awesome job. The whole part of it is in the first name, the first word in the show. It's Expedition. I believe personally myself that you really have to be out there for 3 to 4 weeks. You have to become part of the area. These other shows that go out there for a day or 2 or 2 or 3 nights and interview people, look, no disrespect, right on. That's your passion, and I support it 100%. But that's not wishful thinking. That's scratching that body. I might see something. I might hear something. I believe you have to be out there even longer. The only, like I said, Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock on History Channel right now. The only disadvantage about it, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's 25 minutes to show, 35 minutes of ads. And I mean, I guess you have to pay for the show. I have a goal, hopefully, by the time I'm 60, nice fifth wheel in a truck, and man, I'm doing all the states. I'm camping out for a month. I don't need to get paid for it. Hopefully, at that time, I can do it without worrying about money and putting it out there so people can see. Because it's not like you're going to see it constantly. That's why you have to be out there a long period of time. But what they're doing now is this season, they've been brought back to Southern Washington. Okay. And what brought them back to Southern Washington is Bryce. Somebody got in contact with Bryce. He's the lead guy. A real good guy, smart guy. I like him a lot. But it was a scout for a timber company that was out scouting the land before they do their work and whatnot that got a hold of him. Here's what's really cool about this. He came across a nest. Now, when I say a nest, I'm talking, y'all, we're not talking about little twines. No. We're talking about large sticks and whatnot woven together. It's amazing. And we're talking 2, 3, 4 foot off the ground. I consider it like a walk or condor nest with greens on the inside for bedding. It was amazing. Getting off this from it last season, they only had like 8 episodes. It was kind of heartbreaking, but it was pretty cool at the end of it. They came across 3 nests. Again, remember, it's not hearing, but it's visualizing, okay? This is what's important. These nests were amazing, y'all. Like I said, I consider it like a walk, like a big pterodactyl ass nest you see on the government. The height on the nest and the width on the nest. But the inside of them measured 9 foot by 6 foot. Visualize. 9 foot by 6 foot. Massive, guys. That's wider than this window. This window's 5 foot. 5 foot. And remember, add a foot. These are 8-foot walls. Massive. That was last season. We'll get back to this season. excuse me, they're doing better. Like I said, technology advanced. They're learning, because I've watched them every season. They're learning each season, how can we get better? Bryce, shout out, man. Shout out to you. But like this year, they have what's called a tripwire. It's like seismic vibrations. They can feel, they can detect them. They've planted them in the ground. An 18-mile stretch, too, take in mind. That's pretty impressive right there in itself. Like I said, they're southern, like southwest Washington Central. It's not really south, but it's more like up from south over a little bit before everything goes off in Washington. From one side to the other, like Olympic Peninsula and all that. Very big. California, Washington, big. Like I said, you guys, it's all over. And I'm so forward to breaking down every state when that time does come. But those seismic devices, I'm looking forward to seeing. There's been 2 shows so far, and that's what I'll try to break down really quick, give you my feedback and my gravy on it. I'm interested to see how that works out. So far, they haven't come on, but at the same time, they've got a million things that's not seeing this stuff all the time. Oh, and I want to shout out to Beagles joining the show this year. He's like a bushwhacker guy, can live on the land. I like it. I like what he's doing. I like seeing him there and whatnot because he's been around the land on one side. It was pretty cool. When they came back to the campsite on this last show this last week, it was interesting. Something had pulled the rods from the tents up on it. I mean, this is taking some manipulation to do that, guys. It's not a bear. Okay, it's not a raccoon. That's manipulation to be able to turn that stuff, to be able to do what they did on it. And it was funny. They checked, because trail cameras, I'm big on this. Like I said, in time and future shows, I'll break down stuff that I think, hey, man, maybe this could be something that could help them out. Because watching stuff for so long, I soak it in, bro. I'm like a biscuit, y'all, and it's just gravy. I'm soaking it in and trying to figure out how can we make it better. But anywho, on one of the trail cameras, it had got triggered and you could see a bat. But then there was something else. And a shout out to Bryce again. Boy, that cat on the computer. Okay, let's put the frame over here. Let's break down the contrast. Let's move the color to make the brightness. In the background, y'all, was a massive ass creature. I'm sorry, massive ass Harry. He's not a creature to me. He's a biological being. Massive, y'all. See the shoulders and head, the colors. It was. I was blown away. I was impressed on it. I mean, the way he'd do it. And then he talked to Murray about it. And this is a new thing I learned. You keep the mind open. You've got to learn new stuff. She said how animals have learned before. It's motion camouflage. And I said, oh, that's a new one. Which makes sense, though. I mean, this is their house. Going back to the Harry movie. They were right there. And I couldn't even see them until they moved. Same purpose here. I don't think if they don't want you to see them, you're not going to see them. And people are like, well, you could smell them. I don't know. I'm more about, I don't think they all smell. I mean, they're going to have smell, but the pungent, musky smell, I think that's more the males. I personally believe that as well. I think that's more the males that smell like silverbacks. That's brought to my attention too. Silverbacks are like the same way. The males smell, but not the females and babies. I was like, okay, cool. And then like Russell. I love Russell. Russell's always down on his own, baby. His cameraman, woo, sign that contract because you never know. Whatever he sees, you're going after it. And I love him to that too. He comes around a lot of stuff. He's right now they're going down. They went down on culvert and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. He made some pretty cool observations that something ran through the culvert because you see the water was splashed up on the sides. It's like, ooh, that was a good point. But then when he went back around, came out of it the next day and looked around, he came across what he thought was a track. But, he can do his assessment. Listen to me. I believe that anytime you see any evidence, a track, a tree structure, baby, I'm putting foot booties on to protect my feet like the doctors and gloves. I'm not contaminating this, man. I'm going to get some eDNA from everything I see. Because we're trying to scientifically prove. So I was kind of disappointed to see that he didn't try to do that on that. I mean, that to me was like, I was like, oh, I wish he would have done that. I mean, you got to see a side of stuff, guys. I mean, we're trying to prove This biological being is out there, and every little evidence we get, and they know that. And like I said, it's no shout out to Russ. I love him to death. I mean, he's out there. If I was his cameraman, I'm like, okay, buckle down, baby, because if he's ready to go, we're going. It's a good show. I mean, it's pretty exciting. Maria and Biko came across a footprint. It was 15 inches. I thought that was pretty impressive. I was like, I have a little outline here. Because if I just go off rambling, this tree branches will go all over the place. But they found a good track. Now, this last show, like I said, the first show was okay. You got to get everything going. Second show, okay. They ended it on a great note, and we'll get to that here in a moment. But Bryce went and interviewed a guy named Alan. And I guess, he had an encounter, but it was back 2 years ago. Oh, here's something else. Okay. Like in the beginning of the show, he's like, the tracks, this is the progressiveness and the sightings of the past 5 years. I like that, but at the same time, I would break it down to 3 years. This is what 3 years ago. This is what 2 years ago. This is what it was a year ago. Maybe we can more break down exactly if it's still quite active or if it's slowed down. I'll get into some things that they have ideas about that I don't really brush much with, but it's like I said, no hard. I mean, we're all just trying to work together to fill us with what they find and then pass it back and forth. But anyway, this guy Alan was talking about, it was a couple years ago, like 100, 150 feet from where he lived. His outdoor camper looks like a trailer house. It looks like an outdoor camper. But he saw a tall shadow figure, and he thought nothing of it. He said men come out on that. But he said he also saw, and this is what was like, I was like, huh? But it was hairy, and it was crawling like a spider on the ground. Now this, I had to step back and was like, huh? He said it was touching one hand on one side of the yellow line, 2-lane road, and his foot was on the other yellow line. That's a large span, guys. But the way it could turn around and pivot so quickly, I thought, well, I mean, we don't know. So, I mean, if you saw that, I'm not saying. I mean, you could see he saw something. A lot of people debug stuff and whatnot. Now, I believe that, listen, this is something that's going to burn in your mind. Okay? These people are seeing something that's not supposed to exist. They've been told it doesn't exist out there, and you're seeing it for the first time. So I believe it burns in there. I mean, who out there watching this? If you saw a hairy, it would not burn an implant in your head, and you will remember for the rest of your life. It's not a fear factor, y'all. I think it's something that our mind is trying to comprehend that it's something that we said wasn't real. But see, that's all I mean. 200% I can tell you, Harry's out there. It's about the science. Like I said, Expedition Bigfoot, one of my favorite shows. I've watched them all, and still to this day, all the time, I'm watching some kind of show, stories, and I've heard a lot. People, do I think the government knows? We'll get into these other stories down the line, other shows, but yeah, I have some just cringe moments when they think I've killed him. I've heard some stories, and it's like, are you kidding me? This is could be the missing link. I mean, really, I look at Harry as it would change evolution, y'all. It possibly could change some religion that thinks this is out there. Why would they want to do that and harm it? But like I said, that's for a different time. I can't get off my tree branch and get off what we're talking about right now. It's still on this last episode of Expedition Bigfoot. And then Biko saw something, they're changing the cameras, and he had saw something, and they're changing the batteries. And when they went there to look, there was a track he saw, and they followed it, there's another track. That's when they saw that 15-inch track. Once again, visualization, 15-inch track. I mean, it was, and then those friends were torn down, Russ, when he was out, found some cool stuff. There were some rings, y'all, that were manipulated. And they were pretty good size. I think some of them was a couple of feet, some 18 inches. But they were made intelligence, meaning they were made and put there. And they were put there in a nice area. And there was something else that stood out, So he set up there for his nighttime observation with his parabolic mics and stuff like that. And it was pretty cool because, when he heard something and right off the bat, like, I've been doing this a long time. And I was like, oh, I know what the heck that was. Your tongue? Because that communication, they have the wood knocks, the rock smashing, the whoops, the howls, the whistles. But that there, when he heard that, he was like, I don't know what that is. I was like, boy, Russ, I was like, that's the tongue on the top. And like I said, I love Russ. I was going back to, what was it? I think season 3, when he heard something out in the woods. They were in California, I believe. Yeah, that was when they were in Redwood Forest, and that. I love the redwoods. Shout out to California, Northern California. But he heard in the Bible, I watched the show, Ralph about it. He heard, he's like, well, that was a hyena. I said, Ralph, that sounded like a doggone chimpanzee. That was primate. Right off the bat, I heard that one. Like I said, no shout out. It's not like he's going to watch his. No disrespect. I love him to death. He's out there like them, and they're doing a great job. I can see, like myself, Bryce shares that passion. I can see that. I mean, and with that computer stuff, boy, you stay at home. You stay at the home base. You keep working that stuff out, because what he did was unbelievable. It ended really good when Maria and Biko were back where the campground was. Maria was on one side and Biko was on it. She saw something in her camera, saw something in front of the camera, and then when he went to go move towards it, then it ended with this howling and stuff. It was amazing how it ended. It just, if you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, I suggest you watch. It really, because I'm all about gravy. I'm all about the knowledge. And I watch, like I said, I've gone stories. Anytime I'll learn how to do stuff here, because like when I had another podcast, a buddy that I did it with, he knew how to do all this stuff, putting pictures up and videos and stuff. Give me time. I'll learn how to do all this stuff. I promise you guys. But to be able to share this passion with y'all, I'm excited as hell. Well, just a few more things before we go from this week's show. It was just to get us going in a direction to see what I'm going to discuss. But I hear a lot of this migration. Okay. I am not a supporter of the migration. Okay. The only reason, what? The Harrys in Florida, the skunk Harrys, they're migrating north. Louisiana, the grass Harrys. Grass Harrys. There, Texas, Oklahoma. I have a problem swinging that way. Okay, here's one of my big things on that is maybe it's a male with different pods, but I'm kind of go back to our Native Americans. Native Americans had different tribes in the area, right? They had their area, they had their grounds, and they come together and whatnot. I kind of think that's the same basis that Harry is. I think Harry has the same way. I don't know about the migration or they're coming down here to breed and all that. Look, and I'm not trying to disrespect. I'm not saying no. But as for myself, looking at and thinking about it, I don't know about that. I mean, I really believe that they have their areas. I mean, this is something that's been around for hundreds of years. It's on every continent, y'all. And it's going to be exciting to break all this stuff down in time. The tribes, the Native American tribes would have stories. Their powwows, like you say, bring everybody together. They have their music. They eat together. That's the time they come together and share information from their tribes. Their stories passed down to where the hairy man or the law man of the woods or the protector of the woods, that's the biggest one, like the protector of the woods, will come down and join them. I'll get into stories on down the line about what happened there to where that kind of broke apart. I believe they also learned stuff from the Native Americans as well. I believe, it's respect. It's respect. There was an episode where a few seasons ago, they found a doggone fish trap in the middle of the stream. Now, Native Americans used to do this, trap live fish. I mean, and it was impressive, y'all. I mean, there was sticks out of the rain, rocks positioned right, and it was in the flow of the stream to where there was an opening, but once it got in, nothing could get out. I mean, it's stuff like that. That's intelligence. They're learning. And I'll go on to that on a different show as well, because a lot of stuff happened there when they came across that. So, I mean, it was impressive. I mean, I enjoy this, guys. This is a passion of mine. I truly hope that y'all understand and become part of this and enjoy the gravy I share to you. And hopefully in time, y'all can reach out to me. So if you have a story, you have something you know, hey, let me know. Because I'm not saying this is what I'm right. No, listen to me. No, 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 no. I'm here just to share over the decades of stuff. And still to this day, I love it. Like I said, it's a passion. If I'm not writing, I'm checking out stuff on Harry. Because I'm 200% believer. From all the stuff, from the, especially, the nest is the biggest thing, y'all. It's some impressive stuff. I mean, it looks like a doggone walk. Because it's high. And it's not like it's thin. Now look, it's not thin. No, they're thick. And then it goes down inside with the bedding. That to me is the most impressive. It really is. I hope you've enjoyed this. You know, it'll expand. Every week it's going to be something different. But I will leave it on one note. You know, be more like our Native Americans. Respect the land and all the living things in it. I'm just saying. This has been fun. Most important, I just want you to keep smiling, knowing Harry's out there. And I will see you guys here next week, hopefully. And if you like it, subscribe if you want to. If not, just know every week, every Saturday, I'll be back on here. I'm doing this Friday, and I'll release on Saturdays. Y'all be kind to each other, okay? Thank you for joining me. See you next week.